Why?
Because
Okay. This evening, this is the Chicago Computer Society Tips and Tricks SIG, and I am Tim Cakeis, substituting for Sanford Kolonek, who is the normal host of this meeting. Tonight, I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the way we normally do the meeting, but I am gonna start out with something that I know Sanford would have done himself, and that today was the first day of Prime Day, and tomorrow is the second day. Has anybody here purchased anything today or planning to try and purchase something tomorrow via Prime Day, whether it's with Amazon, Walmart, Apt, Best Buy, Walmart, whatever?
I have
Okay,
nothing of any significance. Well, what did I pick up, Mark? With some stuff on Amazon that was for a project I'm working on.
Okay. But I mean, was it a real item or materials that are needed in a project?
I want to say it's material more than a product itself.
Okay, I mean, like if you bought an SSD drive for a computer that already exists, that's material add-on versus getting a whole new computer. Melvin, you had your hand up.
I gotta get some ink. I'm gonna get a Office Max
Okay, and what was that again that you bought?
ink. I need some black and some of the color inks for my printer.
Okay, hope you got a good deal. Everybody,
I got $42 credit. I mean, coupon there from all the stuff I bought. So,
hey, you got to use them at some time, otherwise they may expire.
it expires at the end of this month.
Yeah. So get what you can while you can. All right. Aside from that, I'm gonna try doing something a little bit different from a standpoint that when we normally do tips and tricks, Sanford gets to a point where he asked people the article list that he sent out on the invite, what articles are they interested in. I'm going to take a deviated approach that other people have used in some other meetings I have attended. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and bring up, come on, and I got company in my lap. Come on, got that part. And come on. What the heck did that come up from? Huh. We got an extra bar in here from what I don't know. There we go. All right. Now move that over some. And looking at that other screen, move that over a little bit more. That's about right. Drop this down a little bit. Oh, good, I got rid of that. Lucky me. All right. Now, let's see. Oh, God. Now, you cut that out. Darn it. My cat wanted attention, and come on. There we go. Now, what I'm bringing up is all the articles right now that were on the invite. And I hope to go through many of them, as many as possible, and still have a little bit of time, I hope, towards the end of the meeting.
Jim, are we supposed to be seeing this list?
You should be seeing the browser screen right now.
Yeah, just it says Zoom.
Well, that's because if you look at the highlighted tab up there,
Yeah.
that's the normal posting of a active Zoom meeting you are attending.
Yep.
The others are filling in right now.
Oh, they're not here yet. Okay.
They're just about here. There we go. Here's the first one. Wow. I'm overloading the system. Trust me. Now, I'm going to put this in reader view. I found a lot of these quite interesting, but I need to explain some of them because it may not be obvious to you what I see. Here's Windows File Explorer settings. Settings you should change right now is the title. And this is an older article, I might add. But in general, what they're trying to say here, over the years, as I've installed Windows repeatedly on new machines, test machines, and more, I've slowly adapted to accepting the default settings rather than reapplying a large number of customizations over and over. The vast majority of Windows default settings boil down to a matter of personal preference. There's one setting though that I and many other security conscious folks feel Microsoft continues to get wrong. It's a setting you should check right away. So what are we talking about? Generally speaking, what he's bringing up is the fact that Windows, in many instances, attempts to try and hide various features because a lot of people may tend to get confused or be bothered by the settings. And two of the settings that he's bringing up happen to be hidden files and folders and file extensions. And I'm one of the people that even before I ever knew about Ask Leo and his article here, I was doing the same thing. Is I want to know any hidden files and folders on my system. I want to know what the extension is because it may cause one program to open it up that I don't want to use in a particular instance. I want to right click on that file and say open with another program. So generally speaking, what he's trying to bring up here is that we should all consider going to File Explorer, sorry about that, in 10 and 11. I don't know why the mouse pointer is okay in one screen and not the other. Basically, you come up here to the top and in the ribbon section, you should see over here the file name extensions, and there's also below it hidden items. but he also has another setting that he would change. You have to put the check mark in to activate this. And I have been doing that for a long time, but there's also the possibility of coming down to take a look at the settings and go to tools, folder options, come on, folder options, go to the view tab and come down here to hide extensions for known file types. I don't use that one. I don't want it hidden. If I put a check mark in there, it's going to hide those known file extensions. Personally, I want any file extensions showing up in Windows. Linux, which I also do, usually does not have extensions unless the source of the code you brought into your computer had an extension. So this is something that you might want to really look at. You do have that listing. I have the a PDF, an RTF file I can provide everybody as a download in the chat towards the end of the meeting. But it includes what's on the list and some other articles you may find of interest. In this article here, I have 5 password tools for creating strong passphrases and update security. Now, a lot of people are not familiar with passphrases. If you are a person that has the smarts to have a password manager, you want to have a password phrase that is strong to protect your content. That's very different from a password. Bob, I see your hand up. You're muted.
Okay, I just wanted to catch up one thing about Windows versus Linux. There's only one file type that Linux and Unix did not have a file extension by default, and that was text. All the others I've seen do have file extensions in Linux.
I've seen a few others, but it varies place to place. And so I say that there may be more files that do have that. Peter?
Oh, okay, so I've got a question. I've had a problem recently where I have a piece of software that I don't want to use anymore, but on the open, it defaults to that piece of software, and I want to get rid of that association. How do I do that?
The strongest, best solution is get rid of that piece of software. You do that best with either Revo uninstaller or Geek uninstaller. They are they're competing products. They work very, very similar. You find the program you want to get rid of. You can double click on it, that entry. It should activate uninstalling. You say you want to continue to do the uninstall. It will execute that program's uninstaller. But in both programs, I don't know whose phone's going, but please mute yourself. Bottom line, in the uninstaller, the majority of uninstallers that come with applications are lousy. They don't get rid of everything they put in when you install the program. So in Revo uninstaller and Geek uninstaller, you have a scan function after that program uninstaller has executed. The scanner will check the registry and check for leftover files and give you the ability to select all, delete all, and confirm your deletion in each of those two categories. This gets rid of a lot of garbage that will accumulate over time. That's the main one. Now, if when you said it starts up that program, if you're clicking on a file with the right extension, the only way around it, if you don't properly uninstall the program, would be to right-click it, select on the context menu, open with, and select the program you would prefer to open it up with. If, on the other hand, you're saying every time you boot up the computer, that program starts running, that's in your startup options, and you have to disable it launching at startup. Does that cover your question?
Okay, so my issue is that this is part of a suite.
Ah,
It's a paid suite, and I just want to disable that particular portion of that suite.
that can be a problem. If you had, as an example, Microsoft Office, you can go in through the installer if it's on your machine, and you can deselect various sub-programs within Microsoft Office, and it will remove them. Therefore, it's not an issue. Otherwise, you have to get into your default program settings, and there is, every time you install a program, it may say, if it's this program type, I want to execute this program. You can eliminate that through some of the settings. It's easier in 11 than it is in 10, I will tell you that.
Okay, so I gotta look up default settings.
Yes, you want to get into settings, default settings, find the program you don't want to activate the way it is doing right now, and you may be able to turn off that feature as a default program for that extension.
Okay, thank you. I have something for later on, so I won't bring that up here because it's not inside the.
All right, Bob?
Okay.
I just want to, I put out two keywords, Pete, for what you might want to do. File type associations. File associations is the word for what program opens which file type. That is in settings. If you're in 10, it's hard to find.
Right.
But if you're in 11, it's default apps.
Right.
They call them apps, not programs.
Right. And
it's a setting page.
Yes. Once you select the program that you're interested in, called an app, in 11, it will open up an entire page full of default extension types, and you can check and uncheck those various types so that you can deactivate unwanted launches of the program. I hope that covers that problem.
Yep. Hopefully it will.
In this 5 password tools, like I said, if you're smart, you've got a password manager, because every online account should have a unique password to begin with. But what protects the password manager is not really a password. It should be a passphrase. These 5 tools are very interesting in generating passphrases that with some help. And so the only weird one that I've found so far, and I haven't totally understood it myself yet, is this number 3, diceware. 1 and 2 look very good. 4 and 5 look pretty good as well. A password manager has a random password generator. Usually there's 4 options for your password besides the length of the password you want to generate. And I recommend 16 to 20 characters. You have uppercase alphabetic characters, lowercase alphabetic characters, numbers, special characters, but the special characters is a gotcha. Some sites will not allow special characters at all. Some other ones will say, we'll allow some special characters, but we will not allow all special characters. And if you make your own list of the special characters they allow, you can go into your password manager's special character password generator program, start generating programs with all 4 selected, but you got to look at the password that it gives you and make sure that any special character is an allowed special character. Any unallowed special character, they give you usually like a pair of arrows in a circle, and you hit that and it'll generate a new password with new options on the characters that it's providing. You might have to go through quite a few of those to get a password of the length you want with only the special characters that site will allow. I do have a few, not too many, that allow no special characters. I'm not thrilled with that, but it's a reality. So you have to accept that. This here can be used as your actual password generator or the passphrase for protecting your password management program content. Because what they do is they will generate a phrase with a whole bunch of, I'm going to take off the reader because I think one of these had a slight demo, but you can't see it. And that one wasn't real good. Here's one here. I hope you can see this reasonably well. It says it took a whole bunch of words: old, path, possible, drum, raise, intentions, number 1, and it put it all together, and it will try and give you some it says hints in case you don't remember, but this is regular words that you may or may not be able to easily remember. And as a result, this kind of a password would be for protecting your online account. This, to me, gets into, you use a phrase. It might come from music, a movie, a TV show, a rhyme, whatever sources from your life experience. As an example, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog is a phrase. You might use that as your choice. I don't recommend always using the first letter of the word capitalized. In fact, especially if you use names, even pet names, I don't use the first or last letter as a capital letter. I use a different letter in between them. And you have to have consistency of always spelling it the same way with the capital letter you chose original. Now, another one that I use is disassociated words, like this example here. This phrase here of words, they don't associate with one another. They're completely different. Another one I have seen in a router in the past that I don't use anymore, defaulted to perfect squirrel, all lowercase, number 861, and that was the pass phrase. I do not think most people would associate the word perfect and squirrel together. If you said pretty kitty cat or pretty dog or pretty the animal's name, that's associative because you may tend to say that all the time and other people may pick up on that. Whether you're saying it in a online conference meeting like this or in group get-togethers in person. So you have to be careful the difference between associative and non-associative words being used in a passphrase. They can make things strong. Normally, if you only use like one of these words, people who are bad actors, one of the first things they do is a dictionary lookup. If I find the word in the dictionary, I've nailed you. And if you do it that way because it's an easy word for you to remember, it's almost the same as having no password whatsoever. So good luck. Peter, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, do you have me? I don't know, something happened on my USB here, but I tend to actually write my passphrase. And then before I create it on the password, I flip it 180 degrees. So the last word and everything is backwards in there. And then I capitalize the beginning letters of the backwards words. And put a number and a character in.
I don't like, now, when it comes to substitution, an I or an L could be a shift 1 or a number 1 because they look very similar. But, and also an O for a 0 or vice versa. But I don't like the idea of putting a capital letter at the beginning of words because it's too commonplace that we tend to do that, especially in names. And that's why I like to have a different letter, and I consistently use it that way in passwords, a different letter updated.
It's not at the beginning of the word, though.
I don't.
It would be the end of the word, and the word is backwards.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I still don't use the first or last letter of any word. I always use a letter in between because that's not normal. And that can throw a bad actor off track. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to get across.
I don't know. It seems like my camera is disconnected.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. That could be your USB problem. I'm going to move on to the next article.
Oh.
Okay, this one here I brought up because a lot of things, Windows, your smartphones, a lot of them are trying to get you to use facial recognition. This one, you really need to read through the whole article. When you are using fingerprints, facial recognition, and some other similar things, you are using biometrics. And I have never, ever had good faith in that. And on top of it, you are giving away identification information that could be used against you in some manner. And remember, the big target of the criminal organizations are the big companies we give our information to. If you use facial recognition, that means the company of that device or operating system has your image to verify that you are you and the person authorized to use that device or machine. So bottom line is you're giving them that information. If they have a data breach, so do the bad guys have that information, and that can be used against you also. People on social media post way too many photos, and the end result is if people lose a driver's license, they can find a picture of somebody else, put that image on that driver's license, and pretend to be you in legal documents and get house loans, mortgages, buy automobiles, and guess who they're coming after? You. Because your name, your driver's license number, etc., is on that copy of the driver's license, even though the picture may not match you. So my personal word of advice is to avoid this, but they're using the fact that a lot of people hate passwords. Okay, fine. Don't use any security and take the consequences, because giving away your biometric information is as dumb as a box of rocks. And I'm not kidding. We're getting lazy as hell about everything. The least amount I got to do or think about is the way too many people are going these days, and it's going to bite even more and more people as time passes. That's what I want to bring up with that particular article. Here's the next article. How to download and install Windows Performance Toolkit in Windows 10. I actually did this today. I didn't know about this particular tool until I dredged up the article, and I didn't get around to it until today. I did it on the machine that I'm hosting the system on. But basically, it installs two programs here, and I'm going to see if I can enlarge this a little bit. Yeah, okay, that didn't work. Let's see if this one. Ah, that one worked. Okay. Now, what it the assessment kit has about 5 or 6 different things that it downloads in an install package, but you're only installing one thing. And unfortunately, I didn't leave it up. I had to reboot my system, so I'm not going to do it again. But the main things are Windows Performance Toolkit has 2 main pieces. One is a Windows Performance Recorder and a Windows Performance Analyzer. Now, how you use the tool is you run the performance recorder for a period of time on your machine while you're using it. When you get kind of done or to a break point, you stop the recorder and then you run the Windows Performance Analyzer to see where your system may be having problems with your CPU, your memory, your storage device, network, especially when you have 100% usage and it's slowing down your whole system. So each one has a real value. There's also the third item called the GPU view. This gives you performance information about your graphical processing unit. We all have one, whether it's on the motherboard as usually an Intel or AMD chip for graphics display, or we have a dedicated graphics card like a NVIDIA or a Raytheon card, and now the Intel ARC card. And you'd have that installed in, and you'd have your display attached to it, and it disables the one on your motherboard. Now, how do you get this to work is, if I can get this thing to work right, you have to be logged in on the Windows 10 machine as an administrator, not as a standard account. You then bring up this article, you click the download button, it downloads this file here, you execute the file, and it will show, you've got to answer some choices, and it gives you guidance here of what to say or do. And generally speaking, this one, this one, this one, and I think it's this one here are checked off. So as you can see, you uncheck about 4 items and only leave this one here checked, and then do the install. And once it's done, it gives you in the startup menu at the top, only for today that you do it, these recently added 3 items. Later on, after that day that you install it, they will be moved to another area in your program listing on the start menu. I haven't had it installed long enough to know where it's putting those, so I can't answer the question. But since they're from Microsoft, the first area I would look at would be under M for Microsoft, and I click one of these alphabetic characters. If I do it on Windows, it will give me the alphabet, and I can select the letter I want, like M for Microsoft, and I would see all the M's, which I can't show you here because this is a Linux machine I'm using to do this presentation part. And the second area I would look at, if it's not under M, would be under W, where most of the Windows stuff is listed, and it may be in one of the folders within the W section. In 11, there is a version of this kit for 11, but you'll have to understand it. Some of this is going to all look different. Some of it is basically the same, but some of it, especially finding where it's at after the day you install it, may be somewhere else. This can help you determine, do I need more memory? If I've got a 2-core processor, if can I upgrade to a 4-core processor? If I'm using a spinning hard drive, is it getting overloaded or too small? Because anytime the system says I have 65% or more, the system will begin slowing down. So if I've got arbitrarily 200 gigabytes of storage on drive C, and I have 72% of it already filled up with files and folders, I'm slowing myself down because I have too little space. And what you don't understand is that 30% or so of the drive has to be not occupied by your files and folders, because it's used for shadow copying and various temporary files that Windows and your applications are constantly creating, and they usually don't get rid of them until after you close the program you're running or restart the system. And even then, if you run CCleaner, Glary Utilities Cleanup, Privatizer Utilities, just to name a few, they all find junk files left behind by the operating system and by your application programs all the time. That's why at least once a month, you need to run cleanup programs to get rid of this garbage. If you're constantly bumping up against high content on drive C, you probably need a bigger drive. And I recommend, and Microsoft has been recommending to the manufacturers for several years now, if you're going to change, go to an SSD device, whether it's an M.2 version or a 2.5-inch type drive, much like this one here. That's a 2.5-inch solid state drive, and you would want a capacity greater than your current, especially hard drive. Or if you already got an SSD, maybe you need a bigger one. You're outgrowing it. Or you need to go into a uninstaller program like Revo or Geek Uninstaller and try and determine, do I have programs out there that I don't use, I don't want, I don't need? Uninstall them, get rid of them, and get back some of that real estate. That might save you today, but some tomorrow you may still need to go to a bigger drive. I hope everybody was able to follow that. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll go on to the next one. Favorite apps of 2022. I haven't seen the article yet for 2023. That'll probably come out later this year. Basically speaking, it's a slideshow how this works. And I can't show you the slides because I switched it to reader mode. So I'm going to go back to non-reader mode, normal browser. And as you can see, it says start the slideshow. So I click on that. The first one is Be Real. And Be Real is some kind of a viral sensation. Don't ask me why, but it basically it is reminiscent of what TikTok wants you to do, only TikTok does it worse or more frequently. It wants you to take a picture per day. What hopefully this just asks you to take a picture. TikTok will take its own pictures as you're using the phone and holding it up. And you never know what the picture may turn out to be. Next is trackers, and they're kind of supporting the DuckDuckGo app on your phone. And it is a good idea to really consider foiling trackers from websites you may be using, and protecting email as well, because DuckDuckGo will provide you alias email addresses you can use in online accounts, or give it to individuals to contact you. It goes to that a DuckDuckGo, it looks up that alias address, knows what your real address is, and forwards the message to your real address box, so that people don't know exactly what your real email address is, and bombard you with all kinds of junk mail you don't want. Next is Read Me Faster. This one I'm a little perturbed with as to what they're attempting to totally accomplish. It has to do with Reminders app on an iPhone. And this somehow allows you to enter a reminder through their app that probably is a front end to the Reminders app itself, to be able to get the whole job done a little faster than you typing out your reminder message. That's the gist of what I get out of it. Next is Juicebox, excuse me. And this is for Android or iPhone. So all these apps are a mix. Some of them are strictly iPhone. I don't remember seeing any that were strictly Android. It's usually for both. And this one here helps you, it brings a TikTok-like discovery tool to Spotify if you use Spotify. And I'll leave it at that. I don't know Spotify, I don't know TikTok, so I don't know how to tell you and explain what they may be referring to. You may have to do some additional research on that particular app if it tweaks your interest. This is another one, but this one is all Apple for iPhone, iPad, and Mac. It's speaking of Spotify and Apple Music, and giving you the ability to make a singular playlist from both sources to play your music on. Song Shift is another one in here. I want to just go through some of these quickly. Transparent Note. This one would probably bother me and a lot of seniors, I would think, in that you're having a note over the top of some other image on the browser to be able to see the background while you are either reading or creating the note that you want. If you frequently present on video calls, as an example, and hate to look away from the middle of the screen to check your notes, this is what they would recommend if you can read your note. This sample here, I cannot read the note myself. So you'd have to experiment with it to find out whether it would work for you or not. This one here is a little funny. If you know what Duolingo is, it's a competing program for teaching you how to speak other languages, like Spanish and French as two examples. This one, Zest, teaches you how to do recipes with clear and descriptive and offer video walkthroughs to help you with more complicated maneuvers, they call it, to develop recipes and or do the recipes on your own. And a lot of young people haven't learned how to do cooking in any thing, so they eat out all the time. That's more expensive because you're paying not only the business but all the employees with your patronage eating out all the time. The food is not always healthier, and doing your own stuff can be a better choice. That's as far as I'll go with that. Yeah, drop that. This one here, I had to read it a couple times to grasp what they were talking about. If when you get together with other people, you have a tendency to bring out board games to play the games, like a family reunion, something like that, or just good friends that get together. If you don't know the game, somebody there will try and explain it to you, and you forget most of what they're saying to begin with. What this app does is it shows you the most frequent board games and gives everybody the same instructions, and they're more memorable, and you remember how to play the game correctly. I've never tried it, and I don't think I intend to, because I don't have often games that I would be playing with groups of people. Lock it. Basically, this one here is a picture taking program that creates a Locket style image for your lock screen on your smartphone. Exactly why you want to do it, I haven't figured out, but if it tweaks your interest, go for it. Mastodon, that is somewhat old right now. Twitter is over 15 years old, and Mastodon is a challenger to Twitter that's been around for a number of years. And recently, Meta has launched Threads, and supposedly has already got 50,000 signups for Threads, which goes through Instagram, owned by Facebook and Meta. And people share too much information to begin with. I say good luck to those folks. It's not my cup of tea for social media. Do your own thing. I'm just giving you the information. SwiftKey. A lot of people with smartphones have a problem with the pop-up keypad to type in passwords they may have to put in, or typing out some kind of URL in a browser, typing in an SMS text message. SwiftKey might help some. I'm not betting on it. Basically, you're constantly moving your finger around to the letters of the words you want, and it figures out the letters to properly put up to create your text message. SwiftKey has been around for a long time, and it originated, I'm pretty sure, with iPhone, but it's also available on Android. In fact, the Android, if I remember right here, has two features that the iPhone doesn't have: copy and paste. So you can copy a text that you've got and paste it somewhere else for some other reason. Not available on an iPhone. Another one is a dynamic spot. And this one I haven't quite figured out, but apparently you got to have pretty a modern Android phone probably for it, and it gives you an even with a camera cutout. No Android phone has a design quite like 14 Pro's camera cutouts. But that didn't stop one app developer from giving Android users an option anyway. So this is one that I forgot, Android only app. And I'll let you explore that one if you're interested. Shatar, or however it's enunciated. It's to do with a Mac's display snapshot application. And it gives a lot of added features through that same interface. So you can do OCR, which if you get a graphic image that has writing text messages on top of it, you would have to manually type that, or you have to have an app that understands OCR, and it may be able to copy that text, and then you can paste it into some other document in, say, a word processor or a text editor, whatever. Next is ShareX. This is a screenshot type program that also allows you to share with other people from the app by sending it to them. And it's a Windows only program. It has lots of keyboard shortcuts, and a lot of people don't use the shortcuts. So I'm not sure how well that would work. But a lot of these kind of applications now also allow for large multi-page displays of a document so that you can get the whole document in one action. And this is one that'll do that. Mac mouse fix. Apparently, Mac has, for some people, some kind of a mouse problem that this may correct for some people. I'm not going into details. Documents by Readily. I think that's the way it's announced. Full list of your favorite files, alternatives here. I guess you can, some people don't like the equivalent of File Explorer on their smartphone devices, at least on an iPhone. So this is an alternative way of being able to have access to what files you have on there and identifying your most favorite files so that they're quickly and easily found by you when you want them. Turbo Boost. Apparently on Macs, some people have a problem with the Intel versions, not the Silicon Apple versions, where Intel chips have a turbo boost feature in some of the processors, but in certain operations, it adversely affects capital letters, clock time, etc. And their recommendation here with this program is to be able to turn off that turbo boost feature, which is going to slow you down some. So there's a penalty for using it, but it may eliminate an annoyance. Lock Launcher. This one here is for iPhone. and it's an app that lets you add apps to your iPhone's lock screen. Apparently, some people with the most frequently used apps that they use, they would like to have them on the lock screen so they don't have to unlock their phone to be able to launch the application, which kind of circumvents the security feature built into the smartphones. So I'll let you figure that one out. And there's only a couple more of these. Now playing. This one here is for iPhone also. Basically, at least the questions that concern music, Now Play is an app doubling as a music encyclopedia for those who like trivial games that are based on music and songs lyrics. Good luck. The last one is Sleep Aid, and this one's for a Mac, and it's basically to help diagnose battery issues and walk you through why Mac OS is draining so much battery over a given time frame. And it's kind of like an analysis tool similar to the one that I brought up about the Windows 10 performance tool. The next article, if there's no questions. Why does, this one's a little interesting, I found. Why does my program slow down and eventually stop working when everything looks okay, but your system is unresponsive? And this is a description of the person's problem wanting some information. And the main thing is the first reaction would be to bring up Task Manager if you can. And in the second tab, you have the performance, and it gives you some graph, but it's not always accurately displaying what's happening on your system. What he recommends is using the Windows monitoring tool, resource monitor tool specifically. And if you launch it, you can go to your normal Windows 10 search feature, type in resource monitor, launch the program, and it will give you accurate graphs of CPU, your memory, disk drives, and network, and it will help you isolate which device of those four is likely giving you a problem. And then you have to do individual research. Like I said, if it's the disk drive, maybe it's a case where the software is so saturated, so much is on that drive that you are slowing yourself down in response, or you're still on a spinning hard drive. But this guy that's asking the question, he's using Lighthouse from Adobe, and he's trying to take a whole bunch of photos and arrange them in an album. And he's doing it with all that information on an external drive plugged into a USB port. So you're already paying a penalty. If that's a spinning hard drive, you're paying an extra penalty. The recommendation was to move a lot of, at least some of the information, particularly here, there's a catalog from Adobe. It has an optimizer, but the recommendation is move this catalog to your C drive, and it will speed things up whether you have a spinning hard drive, or recommended from me, and I think him as well, is to have a solid state drive as the external USB drive. And it will give you better performance up to a point. But right offhand, especially with the speeds of modern machines, you're still on most USB ports stuck at a theoretical maximum of 5 gigabytes per second. You actually get less than that. And so unless you have higher speed 3.2 Gen 2 10 gigabyte ports or higher, and USB-C, there are some higher speed ports of at least 10 gigabits per second. But to get the whole maximum, you have to have a device that will handle the higher speeds on that port. The older devices you have that are USB 3 will improve some, but will still be limited to less than a more modern device that's for 10 gigabits or higher speed transfers. The next item, if nobody's got anything to bring up. Okay, now this is an interesting one for some people. Some people, especially in a ranch style house, your property is spread way out. Most people put that router that connects them to the internet on one side or the other instead of, say, in the middle of the house. And or if you are in a tall house, and I know of one person that was, they had their router in the basement, and they were having problems all the way up on the second floor getting Wi-Fi. Well, besides going through floors and walls with that Wi-Fi signal, and it degrades, there just isn't enough resource there. The norm for a house like that is to put it in the highest point, and it acts like an umbrella with the signal coming down more. And that's a better choice. But in this case here, if you've got a machine somewhere in the middle of the house running a Windows 11, you can, especially if it's hooked up with Ethernet, you can turn your Wi-Fi on into a hotspot that will act like an access point or a mesh type Wi-Fi system, sending that signal up higher at a stronger signal, or across the house farther than you otherwise would have with just one device. But it could eliminate having to get a Wi-Fi extender or an access point added to your dwelling. It all depends upon your circumstances and whether you're running 11. But it's an interesting option. Find your IP address for your printer, and it gives you in here 4 ways of finding out what your printer's address is. And I will tell you, first off, this applies to network printers on your in your home, and as opposed to a USB attached printer. When you use a network attached printer, you're either using Ethernet or you're using Wi-Fi, and you will pay a penalty on the speed performance of getting your document printed out compared to a USB printer attached to that computer. If you only got one computer in your home, USB might be the best way to go. You get almost instant reaction. But if you got multiple computers in the home, unless you switch your USB device either with a switch or manually unplugging it from one computer and plugging it into another computer, it's a hassle. With a network attached device, they usually default to a DHCP address. If you go away on vacation, you go in the hospital, say for a week or so, when you come back home, the address of that printer may change. So the end result is, if you want consistency in attaching to your printers that are networked, whether Ethernet or Wi-Fi, always use a static address on that device. A static address is like your home address or the license plate on your vehicle. It's there, it's fixed, and it will not change. Because usually on a car, you get the same license number year after year for a long time, unless you sell your car and have to get a new plate or something like that. Peter.
Okay, so I've recently moved and I've gone to a T-Mobile network device for my internet.
Fine.
So my printer, which is a brother here right now,
Yep.
is connected to that device using an Ethernet cable.
That's fine.
That means that printer is discoverable on all of my machines. I don't have to worry about it because once I install the printer with either 10 or 11, it automatically looks at the network and it finds it. And then it's installed to it and it will remember that because it's on the network.
Yes, but the thing is, it's that router from T-Mobile that is giving out the address to that device. It's also a security issue. If you get hacked, they know every device you've got, and they install malware in printer devices. I've seen it myself. And your only option is to throw out the printer and get another printer that isn't infected. But generally speaking, I do not allow network discoverable on any of my Windows systems as a security feature. Now, in addition, at times, because you may turn off your devices when you're away from home, on a vacation, in a hospital, etc., when you come back and turn on the device, it may get a new, different address, IP address. All the printer devices give you an access panel, and it gives you setup options, and one of them is network. And if you go to that network setting, it'll probably tell you you're set up for DHCP, but it gives you the option to change it to a static address, and you put in a static address that's outside the range of the router's DHCP pool addresses. And it will stay that way for eternity, per se, the life of that device. So there are reasons for using a static address and not using discovery. I do not also believe in the WPS on routers. WPS has been known as a security issue for decades. So using the WPS is dangerous, and it's always been recommended you go into the router and disable that feature.
So it's disabled by default. The USB ports on the router are inside the firewall of the local network.
So what?
So I can't do it outside. Can't do it across the T-Mobile network. But I can do it locally on the Wi-Fi
Well,
and on the,
let's back up a second here. You said your printer was attached to the router. Normally that's done with an Ethernet or a Wi-Fi. You're saying you're
it's Ethernet, it's Ethernet.
okay,
Sorry, I misspoke there when I said USB.
but the router, regardless, is saying I am issuing that device an IP address, period. But if I turn all IP addresses that are issued have a lease. A lease expires, just like in a housing, a rental property. And as an end result, at half-life, it checks. Are you still there? You are. I extend the lease. But if you are not there, you went on vacation, you turned off the device, you instead of burning up electricity for no reason, and or you went in the hospital, you or somebody else turned off the device, and when you come back, you turn on the device, the address probably will be different. Now,
I do not disagree with you on that.
And now there are some routers that will allow you to assign that printer a static IP address inside the router, but not all of them do that. So the printers are designed to give you access to network settings, and you can change it. And changing a printer to a static address has been commonplace for over 3 decades.
I know, because I used to do it.
So I recommend it that way. I have all my printers set up with a static address. They never change. It doesn't matter what happens. If I get a power outage for 3 or 4 days, so what? When I get the power back and I bring up the computers and the printers, guess what? They have the exact same address, just like my house address, just like my plate on my car. It's been the same for 2 or 3 decades now. It won't change no matter what the situation is. When you use DHCP, that's a different story. It will change over time. And suddenly you can't figure out, why am I not able to print suddenly when I was able to print before? Odds are the address changed. And so when you ask your computer to print something, it says, I'm going to this address. But the printer says, I have this address. They're not the same. The end result is you get no printout. Using a static address eliminates that problem. It also eliminates the need for network discovery of the printer. So I'm going to move on unless you got something else.
Okay.
Now, this is an interesting one, and I think it's something worth considering. Now, I have seen over the past number of years, people sending usernames and passwords for online accounts to other people. I don't care what the reason is. There are too many reasons why. And if it's not through email, they're doing it through SMS text. That's all unsecured. The bad actors know how to get that kind of information through the internet, and therefore they can use that information against you. And here's now, I use Proton Mail. I got a free account. I got a certain amount of storage free. I think it's 500 megabytes. And I've never even come close to needing all that space. So I can send encrypted emails with information like that to anybody. But now Gmail has a new encryption capability that makes it safer sending that kind of sensitive information. If I am sending financial information through an email or SMS text, I might want to have this kind of a feature where I can encrypt what is going through the internet out to whoever I'm sending it to, and only they are seeing it unless somebody, a bad actor, hacks my account or hacks that recipient's account. Then they would be able to see the content of that email. But hacking the email accounts isn't that common. So I wouldn't worry about it. This does not work in SMS text. I'm not aware at the moment of an SMS text encryption capability. Bob?
There are two things we should point out about encrypted Gmail. It is a paid value-added service, not free.
Understood. I
Second,
can get to that.
it is not worth it. It is not end-to-end encryption.
That is brought up in here, but it is better than sending sensitive information in standard email, and because it's interceptable and that information can be used against you. If say, for example, there's a lot of people, if you're not aware of it, that were sharing their Netflix accounts, usually with friends or relatives, and they have to share the username and password with those people so they can get Netflix content on their devices. And Netflix has cracked down on that. Not everybody did this in person with the other person who is going to use it that shouldn't be using it. They sent the information through either email or through SMS text messages. Good luck, because that means other people can use your account. They might even be able to get into your account and lock you out of your own account. And then you got to try and prove to the account host that you are the real owner and give you back control of your account. In the meantime, whatever the hacker did might end up being charges coming to see you because of something that person did in your name on your account. So you got to think ahead because of all the criminal activity that is going on in our world right now. It's getting damn scary. The next article. This one is coming out in 11 primarily, and eventually 12. It's a Windows AI Copilot. It's to replace Cortana. It's using the Bing artificial type of intelligence to supposedly, it's a new assistant using the artificial intelligence to help you do more and faster. It gives you a chat box type capability that might help you do things like write emails better than you currently do. I know of a few people that could use that feature. Prepare documents, find information and used in other apps. You could also use it for making a presentation. There are people that are using the AI programs to be able to quickly generate a presentation skeleton. Never trust everything that comes out of AI. You have to validate what it's saying first, and then you should still customize it anyway in your own words. It just gives you a skeleton of the presentation for you to massage at afterwards and come up with the final product that has been validated. So it's an interesting little tidbit here that I guess is coming. I don't think you'll see this, I could be wrong, in 10 because they stopped adding new features to 10, Microsoft did. And so all you're going to get is bug fixes and security patches on 10. Now, this one here. Now, this is interesting because we're all aging. Our vision is changing, not for the better. So a lot of folks need to have text on their screen enlarged. And basically what this article is getting across is there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. A lot of people will go through settings and change the text size. And I'll tell you right now, that is the wrong way to do it. Increasing the text size doesn't work well. Sometimes changing the magnification doesn't always work well. The wrong thing is changing your screen resolution by downgrading it. Let's assume you have a 1080p display on your device right now, and I decide to lower my screen resolution to 1080 by 1024. It makes things look bigger, but you pay penalties on both readability and what's available on the screen. The right thing to do is scaling. Scaling is like if you hold down the control key and hit the plus key, it will, in most systems, enlarge the text like I did earlier and like I'm doing right now. I'm holding down the control key, and every time I hit the plus key, it enlarges it. If I hit the minus key right next to it, it shrinks it down so that if you're lucky, you see a blurry little line of text that you can't read. But scaling is the way to go. The scaling he's talking about would be on a more permanent basis rather than on a case-by-case display, such as in this web browser. If I use a control key and plus and minus keys, it's per web page. If I use the scaling in settings, I can keep it permanent. And it'll always come out, any application, whether it's a browser or some other program, it will have the same scaling all the time. And some people in the last 6 months have asked about this particular problem. How to and why to run check disk to scan and repair. Now this says Windows 11. This applies to Windows 10 as well. I think they did a service not saying that in the title. But generally speaking, check disk is too often overlooked. And I got a surprise out of these options. You can go into a command line window and type in check disk space C:/ space /F to find and fix corrupted files. If you're on a spinning hard drive, you might want also /R to find and recover as much information from bad spots that have developed on the disks. But there's V, which usually stands for verbose, and that does mean that in that it displays the name of each and every directory and file that it goes through. And that means things are scrolling off the screen before you can read them, etc., based upon the amount of folders and files on your system. So I would not recommend the V. But there's a lot of other options here I didn't know existed, including being able to scan in a offline mode like this one here and one down here. I think it's this one here. No, this one here I think is the one. But you have to be careful because on one of these here, it will, I guess ScanDisk is doing it in an online mode and checking things out through the internet connection. If you have a fast connection, you don't notice degradation. If you do not have a fast internet connection, it'll slow you down. So using some of the offline scanning can be quite useful. But a few of these down at the bottom are for only FAT, which is FAT 16, FAT 32, and extended FAT options. But I don't know how many people would use those except on a flash drive. If you got a flash drive, you might have those and you might need those options. But it gives you a lot of features here that I didn't even know about after all these years. We're talking going back to MS-DOS days. So you're talking about 40 years. So these are a lot of features that exist. One of these, I don't remember which one it is explicitly. I'll let you look through it. Oh, here it is. /X forces the volume to dismount because if you're doing a scan disk of the C drive from the command line versus File Explorer properties, tools, scanning, it says I cannot do it now because the disk is in use. Do you want me to do the scan the next time you restart or start up the computer? And if you answer yes, that's what it'll do. But if you had the /X, it will first dismount the C drive. Then it would do the function. But when it's done, you are going to have to restart your computer to automatically remount the C drive, because otherwise you have no access to this unmounted C drive. Any questions there so far? It's a tool we forget about. Scan FC, SFC, Scan Now, is another tool that finds corruption in the critical files to boot Windows up. And I have been finding for the last couple of years a lot of corruption after a Windows update. It's rare that I get done with a monthly update. I don't find one or more files corrupted, and scan SFC /scan now finds it and usually corrects it if you get to it right away. If you let it go, it may not be able to repair the corruption. Next one, capture scrolling screen. This is something I briefly mentioned previously. This is another way of being able to use Edge, Chrome, Firefox, and anything that's Chrome. You can also use Chromium usually. And the end result, this gives you the ability to say, hey, I've got a web page here. It goes on for many, many pages beyond what I can see. I can take a single scrolling screenshot of the total content and save it on my disk somewhere, usually in documents or in pictures folder. It depends on what your settings are. And because of time, I'm going through this a little bit quickly. How to convert an image to editable. Microsoft has this ability. And this basically says, if I get a picture that contains, say, numbers from a spreadsheet that somebody took on their cell phone, as an example, and sent it to me. Well, I don't want to sit down and try and read that graphic image of text information and put it into a spreadsheet or a Word document. The Word contains OCR capability, so it can look at that image and pick out the words within the image and transfer them into the clipboard, which then can be pasted into a new document. So this is something that a lot of people don't know about, and it might be of value. What other programs have this? There is a tool in Power Toys that are made by Microsoft employees that tries to do the same thing. In earlier versions, it didn't do a great job, but it got a pretty fair amount of the text correct, but you had to do a lot of correction. I will mention that. There may be other applications out there that also have the ability to take an image, do OCR scanning, and give you good results that reduce or eliminate having to type that stuff manually. Next, your disk, it's stuck at 100% usage and nothing is running yet. You just boot it up and it's at 100%. Why? And this gets into removing startup programs that are automatically starting up when your computer starts up. And this also includes on restarts, because until all those programs are done running, unless you have a delay application, they're going to suck up all the resources of your CPU, memory, and your drive resources until that's completed. Then you can proceed to do your work. Unplugging external devices that might be causing this tie-up also. Pause Windows Update temporarily. Turn off print spooler service temporarily. Run a check disk that we already covered in another article. Update device drivers may be required. Run system file checker, that's SFC /scan now in a command line. These are all explained here as to what and how you go about using the tools and why. So I'm going to leave this to all of you to review, especially if you run into this kind of a problem. And I'm going to kill a cat because so really annoying me. I have Windows 11 22 H2. Apparently, this is giving a lot of people a headache, and I'm not printing enough these days that I have noticed it on my network printers. But if you are using a network printer, instead of using a straight code from the program you're printing to the spooler and the spooler sending it out over just plain TCP to your printer on your network, It's using RPC protocol on top of the TCP. And this is causing a lot of people real aggravation. So what this is doing here in this article is giving you information if you are having such problems, how to turn this off. Now, the irony is it requires a registry edit, and most people have learned stay away from it because you can hose your system. Well, system backups are just the ticket before doing reg edit, especially if you don't, you're not experienced at it. I've been experienced at it for decades. Generally speaking, it would give you the backup, but you have to have the restore media, know how to boot off the restore media, and how to restore your backup to get back to a working system. Or if you come down here towards the bottom, maybe I'm on the wrong one. He's got one, he had one comment, I thought. No, on this one here, it didn't. There's another article that they give you a .reg file to download. But he says, examine it after you download it to make sure it looks like it's the same information as in his article. And then if it's okay with you, you exit out of the reg edit file and double click the reg edit file, and it will install the changes into your registry so that it takes effect. This one here, you've got to go through and follow the instructions here of how to make the changes to whatever is required to shut off the RCP and do it the old-fashioned way if you're having problems. If you're not having problems, ignore it. I got only 2 left articles. Authenticator. Two-factor authentication is being recommended more and more practically by the day. There have been apps for years from LastPass, Google, and several other third-party processors that you put on your phone, and it gives you a little screen with a number. That number exists for 30 seconds. But don't panic. You do not do a copy paste usually with these unless it's running on your existing computer. And that requires running usually an Android or iPhone app on your computer. You start typing, and this number is usually good beyond the 30-second cutoff, but you got to remember all the numbers. I don't recommend you taking the time to write down the numbers because I don't know how long they will accept those numbers as being valid. I do know I have gone as much as 40 seconds after the number appeared before I hit the enter key, and it worked just fine. Now, how far you can go with that same number, I can't tell you. I never played with that enough to try and find out how long they will accept that number. But I'm sure there's some kind of timeout. And if you respond a little too slowly, wait for the next number and start typing right away. That's my recommendation. So they give you a whole bunch of them here. It's worth looking into. It gives you multi-factor authentication capability. Another one that usually cost a fair chunk of change, is called a YubiKey. Now mine are for type A, but they're now also making type C devices. This is just a piece of plastic, plugs into a USB type A port. When it settles down, you press this little gold button with a key image on it, and it sends the code that you pre-registered on your online account. And it will validate the number sent now versus what you registered with a YubiKey on your online account. And I do use this on some, not all of my online accounts. It depends on the sensitivity of the information. So that's another alternative for two-factor authentication. The last one here is Windows has hidden themes, which I never knew about. This article is the first one I've seen about it, and it was done in December of 2022, and I just never noticed it until more recently. And basically, it gives you an idea of what might be out there and how, again, to change the registry so you can find and use the images. This is the one article. It says, show all comments, and there's only one comment, which I find hilarious. At any rate, it's from the author of the article, and he gives you how to download a .registry file from this URL location. You right-click on the downloaded .reg file and select Edit to view the content. If the content looks like what he is saying here that you can do manually, but you don't want to take the risk, then it's okay. You gotta be kidding. This meeting is almost over with, but somebody else came in. Offhand, this you would after you exit editing mode with the reg file you download, you double click, that's the left click, that file name, and it puts the entries into your registry as per the instructions here. And then you restart the computer, and it allows you to go in and see these hidden themes, and you can select what you want. And hang on for 1 second, folks. That was the last article, so we'll do Q&A. I'm sorry, Ricky, you joined so late, but basically we're almost done with the meeting. I will provide a file in RTF format of these articles we've gone through in the video, along with a bunch of other articles. So let me try and find, did I, that, yes. All right. I didn't put it on this machine, so I'm going to stop sharing from that machine. And I'm going to come over here and see if I put it here. It'll be my luck I didn't. By the way, there's an REG file. It happens to be from CCleaner, And if I double click that, it will take whatever CCleaner took out, put it back into the registry if I was having problems. Okay, I gotta go to a flash drive. Bob, go ahead.
I have a question regarding YubiKey.
Yes.
If you are using YubiKey, do you need to leave it plugged into the USB port, or is it only needed when you're authenticating?
Only when you're authenticating.
Can it also be used for your Windows login as a supplement to that?
You know, I haven't tried it, so I can't answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
Normally I would say no, because the authenticator is a long number that you would really hate to manually type in to begin with. And PIN numbers usually are 6 numbers or alphabetic characters.
No, not the authenticators. I know there is a Windows authenticator you can use for
Yes.
your Windows login, but what I'm getting at is the YubiKey USB device.
Right.
So that does not need to remain plugged in, and you're not losing a USB port.
No.
Excellent.
Okay, I had to turn off a light there, but come on, puppy. Yeah, you're not. It's a recognized drive, so it won't automatically pop up. And no, it's not an extra space. And it, I got a little problem with one port. There we go.
Did Peter have some question?
Okay, go ahead, Peter. While I'm
Okay,
I'm trying to find it.
reverting back to way at the beginning of the meeting, I've had some issues. And what it is I've got a bunch of old desktops of various vintages.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were identical Dell boxes, except that the identical motherboard, identical outside, but the inside, one of them was a Windows 10, upgraded to 22H2,
Okay.
but it only had an i5 with 4 co-processors. And the other one was a Windows i7 with 8 co-processors. Now I put the maximum number of RAM in the Windows, the board that had the i10, the i7 with the 16, and
The other one
I was
i5?
debating whether to swap the hard drives. So I played around with it, and I've got a drive cloner and an extra drive. So I took the Windows 10 22H2 and cloned it exactly so I wouldn't have to play around with the native drive. And it managed to go over into the higher powered box. And it recognized it, and I didn't have to go through any authentication with Windows or Microsoft, and it worked. So I'm happy about that. So now I've got a Windows 10 22H2 with 16 gig of RAM and 8 co-processors. So I'm happy with that. But the other box with the i5 now is a Windows 7 Service Pack 1, which cannot be upgraded. And it's got i5 4 co-processors in it. And I'm wondering what I should do with that box. Because I don't want to spend for Windows 10 to put a new system in there. Should I actually do a Linux box on that, or should I leave it alone?
You can. Now, here's the thing. In most instances, an i5 does not have hyper-threading. So it either has 2 cores or 4 cores, depending on its generation age. The second thing is i7 usually has hyper-threading. Therefore, it looks like you have more cores. One exception I know of is in the 9th generation, an i7 does not have hyper-threading. So all you get is 4 plain cores. And I'm not finding what I'm looking for here.
Okay,
ahead,
so
Bob.
the reason I brought this up is because I'm taking a lot of the old boxes and I'm dedicating them down to actually being controllers for various
Well,
machines for
that I-
grammar school.
that i5, even an i3 would do fabulously with a Linux. So that's an option. And you can have a high-end a Linux like with KDE Plasma or GNOME 4 desktop. Go ahead, Bob.
With regard to Core i5, I have had several PCs which had the Core i5 processors, and every one of them had hyperthreading. So the older Core i5s did not, but that would be before Skylake.
well,
Anything
again,
since Skylake, it does.
like I said, with generational changes, you remember with the newer generation i5s, they're competing with some outfit called AMD and Ryzen chips. Now, unless they want to go out of business, they had to add in hyper-threading to give them more horsepower.
Yeah, well, my recent generation, like 11 and 12, 11th and 12th generation, they have like about 6 or 8 up to 12 hyperthreads.
Right. And
But
that,
the older ones, no, they didn't have so much.
now I have i5s dual cores that do have hyper-threading in
Okay.
old systems. I have lots of old systems.
So
What
my question there is where's the break off on the model number on the processor?
As to what?
Generation.
Oh, the first digit after the I is the generation number, but once you hit the 10th generation, it's the first 2 digits after the hyphen.
Okay.
So you have
So
if you have a very first generation Intel, it only has a 3-digit number, and normally they're 4-digit numbers. Okay.
so
And
these are both 4 digits.
okay, 4 digits, that means the first number is likely the actual generation, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
9, I was amazed. I have a 9th gen i5 processor, and by God, I ended up having conniption fit because I wanted to change it to an i7 processor, thinking I'm going to get hyper threading in the 9th gen. And when I started looking at, oops, there's no hyper thread. So I did some research and found out the only 9th generation processor with hyper threading from Intel is an i9, which is usually a gamer's processor. So most people aren't going to be interested in dealing with that, going to an i9 processor, even if they could. And as far as the document goes, outside the invite articles, I can't find the other document offhand what I did with it. It's somewhere around here. If I got your email addresses, I'll email it.
So one other thing is I found a Dell install disk for Windows 7 SP3. Now, knowing I may take that i5 box and change it to a Linux, what's the possibility of me actually putting that in and having it upgrade to Windows 7 Service Pack 3.
It might, but at the same time, it's going to complain. It wants to activate your license. So you got to have your license key. And even then, most of that stuff has been deactivated at Microsoft and will not activate that old software. So you have to run it unactivated,
So
which
it's
sometimes causes a problem.
a Dell box,
I
and it's
don't
a
care.
Dell install disk.
It don't matter.
And the license is on the disk. I'm not gonna
I
reformat
understand
the
that.
disk.
I know, I got 7 here.
Okay,
galore.
I understand.
But you're also a big security risk if you go online.
Well, the thing is, it's gonna be for a 3D printer,
Then
to
you'll
run a
be just
3D
fine.
printer.
You'll be just fine. But SP3 was the last major update of 7. There is an unofficial SP4. I don't recommend getting it. I experimented with one system and it messed it up. So stick with just the 3. But if you're risk averse, you can go online temporarily. There may be additional security updates that can be applied to that 7 and then get off as quickly as you can.
So what I'm thinking is I'll take my cloner, clone that Windows 7 disk, like I did with the 10,
Right.
put the cloner in there, do the cloned one in there, and try the update. And if it works, then I can do it with the better drive that was in there originally.
That's fine. It's just a case where I wouldn't go online except for a brief period of time to get any additional updates for 7. And if you use it in an offline fashion like you're talking about, it'll work fine. You can even do XP the same way if you wanted to, or Vista, or 8. They're all unsupported. 8 you can probably still activate, though they'll give you a hassle doing it. But at least it's more modern. If you have a 7 version, you can theoretically upgrade it to a 10. I don't know. You might also even be able to update it to 11, but I wouldn't bet on it.
It won't. I tried doing the update on the 7 Service Pack 1, and it won't go to Microsoft and update.
That may be because it needs to be up to that Service Pack 3.
Yeah. So if
But
I can get it
I'm
up to
saying,
service,
if you got the original base 7, if you got SP1, SP2, it may not allow you to do it. But if you got the SP3, it probably will, unless the key is already being used by a system with Windows 10.
it shouldn't be.
Yeah, shouldn't be, and might.
I
be
know. I
everything.
understand.
So that's the gist of it. Anybody else got anything? We're running a little bit late, but not bad. If I find that other document, I'll email that out, and you can look at the additional articles that I had to choose from. I had a long list of articles I always pull out, and then I try and select so many for tips and tricks.
They would.
Anything else?
No, not for me. Other than aloha.
All right, I'll say at the moment, everybody have a good night, and we'll end this meeting. One last thing, and unfortunately other people already left. This video probably will not be posted on YouTube until after July 22nd or later, because Sanford does that. And we don't have a way of sharing the YouTube channel. All right,
Okay,
everybody have a good night, and don't forget Thursday night is Ed Keating's meeting. If you want to try that, he should have his notification out sometime tomorrow afternoon. And next week is South Suburban, and I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet. All right.
Okay,
okay.
Good night, everybody.
thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Aloha.